devices so that you can keep the maximum amount of charge on those devices as possible. Make sure that if you have external batteries, you want to charge those as well. If the conditions are not too rough in the area, then now could be the last opportunity for you to take photos of your property to assess the damage once the storm has passed. Make sure that you have your important documents secure and in a safe place, preferably in a waterproof bag or container, such as birth certificates, social security cards, insurance policies, and etc. So we want you to make your preparations and stay informed, and GOSEP will continue to provide updates as we monitor the storm's progress. Again, if you can go to your app store, if you have not yet, and download the getagamePlan.org app, we encourage you to do so as well. At this time, I'd like to bring up our GOSEP Director, Jacques Thibodeau.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, real quick for everyone, the time to evacuate has now passed. It is the time to go to ground and hunker down. We are now no longer in the prepare for a hurricane. We are now in the respond for a hurricane or to a hurricane. So what I'd like to do is to take a quick moment and highlight the fact that we've been working in a partnership with FEMA for the past 3 days. We have our Region 6 Director, Tony Robinson, is here, and he's going to say a few words, and then we're going to turn it over to Jay Grimes to give you a quick weather update, and we're going to talk about how you respond to the initial effects of a storm. So, Tony?
Thank you, Jacques. Thank you, Governor. As Jacques said, we've been working very closely with GOSEP for the last several days. We've got teams on site. We've got commodities here like water, meals ready to eat, generators that are ready to deploy out, working with GOSEP. We'd really like you to do what the governor said. Take this storm seriously. It is a serious storm. Your final action should be complete, and now's the time to hunker down and ride the storm out. Follow the instructions of your local officials. The president did declare an emergency yesterday based on the governor's request. That provides the assistance that the locals and states may need for commodities, resources, and some reimbursement. So just want everybody to know that really is for the governments right now to be able to help them make sure that we're taking life-sustaining, life-supporting actions. We'll continue to work closely with the state and GOSEP on being prepared for the storm, whatever resources are needed post-storm, and do some assessments to be able to determine what other federal assistance may be needed. Thank you.
Jay, quick update.
So we know that the landfall will be later this afternoon into the evening hours, but I want to remind everybody that the first wave of tropical storm force winds aren't that far away. They'll probably begin to move in on the coastline soon after midday. And behind that, by just a couple of hours, that first line of hurricane force winds. So even though landfall is later today, as gentlemen have already said, it's time to go ahead and sit down and take your place and ride out this storm. The little bit of good news here is that the storm should move through relatively quickly. Most of the impacts should be out of the state by or soon after midnight, and we're also looking at a little bit of a reduction in the rainfall totals with the storm system as well. All that said, this is still going to be a serious weather event between now and midnight tonight, so go ahead, take your precautions, finish up the last of your preparations, and ride it out today.
Okay, State Fire Marshal, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Jacques. Governor, we're going to talk about generator safety today, and you know we always talk about this issue because it is an issue. Make sure that when you use a portable generator, you keep it away from the windows and away from the exterior of the house and the openings of the house. Be sure that you always keep it 15 to 20 feet away from those windows and those doors. Before fueling it, make sure you turn it off and let it cool for 15 to 20 minutes. Never use it during the storm. Use it after the storm. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher close by, and make sure that you have your carbon monoxide detector working and in order. This is very important. We lose people every hurricane because of this issue. Please adhere to those restrictions and warnings. Thank you.
Sir, could you please say your name?
Brian Adams.
Okay, Louisiana National Guard, Wildlife and Fisheries on our search and rescue program.
Yep. Hey, good morning. Since Monday, the Louisiana National Guard has been mobilizing and deploying across the coastal parishes of Louisiana to respond to the hurricane. And based on the track of the storm moving east, as of yesterday evening, we started repositioning our forces to the southeast and south central Louisiana. We currently have over 20 300 guardsmen on mission, and will continue to mobilize forces to reach approximately 2,500 total strength before the storm strikes. The Louisiana National Guard is supporting civil authorities and other agencies, and will continue these efforts with a focus on search and rescue. To assist with that potential search and rescue mission, operationally right now we have 58 boats and 101 high water vehicles in the area of operations. We also have now 61 aircraft in the Aviation Task Force. Our Air Coordination Cell here at GOSEP is working with other federal and state partners such as the U.S. Coast Guard and the Louisiana State Police to synchronize air search and rescue assets and operations. We also have other assets that are in reserve to include 29 additional boats and over 270 additional high water vehicles. We've pre-staged 14 route clearance teams across 7 parishes to assist with debris removal and clearing roads for our first responders can respond to the storm. Additionally, the Louisiana National Guard has liaison officer teams supporting numerous parishes across the state. Overall, our mission is to support the state, parish, and local partners, is to save lives, mitigate suffering, protect property, and assist in rapid transition to normal operations. We are working in coordination with our neighboring states, the National Guard Bureau, U.S. NORTHCOM, for contingency planning of additional forces as we continue to assess the storm. The Louisiana National Guard is prepared and equipped to respond to the hurricane. Our training prepares us for this mission, and we are ready. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Department of Wildlife and Fisheries has a long history of working with both the Louisiana National Guard and Louisiana State Police in events like this. We currently have 150 agents fully prepared with both rescue trucks and rescue vessels to go into any needed areas, as well as our MSRT teams ready to do mission-ready recon missions when they need to go into the areas post-storm. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna have Joe Donahue from DOTD and Colonel Hodges from State Police to talk about the situation on the roads as well as the public safety aspect.
Thank you. Good morning. Joe Donahue from DOTD. We are monitoring the current situations. There are currently 4 roads in the state that are closed due to either rising water or closed floodgates. And I just also want to remind everyone that after the storm passes, that does not mean the danger is over. We will be sending crews out to clear roadways from debris and to monitor for flooding. But do not drive through standing or running water. Keep an eye out for downed power lines and always keep safety first. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. LSP has over 400 troopers active across the state with the additional personnel available and on standby, ready to respond to storm-related issues. Troops in affected areas are operating on double shifts to increase uniform patrol presence throughout the state. As road and travel conditions are affected, all updates will be available through the 511 travel information system at 511-1a.org. Dial 511 from your mobile phone or telephone or through the Louisiana 511 mobile app. To report stalled vehicles on the interstate or roadways, star 577 or star LSP from your cell phone. It'll track you to your nearest troop location so that way we can respond accordingly. We urge residents in Southeast Louisiana specifically to comply with your local evacuation orders and take all precautions to keep you and your family safe. Motorists should avoid all unnecessary travel and be mindful of curfew restrictions in their local communities. As the governor said and the other state officials, please follow the rules and regulations that your parish and local leaders have put in place and remain inside. This is a time right now when no one should be out on the roadways. Additionally, our troopers are ready and fully prepared to respond, but need everyone's help to ensure the safety of our communities. Please check on your loved ones, check on those who are most in need by telephone to make sure that they have everything they need so when the storm does pass and we move into the next phase of our operation, that you know where they are and that they were safe prior to it hitting the coast this afternoon. Thank you.
Governor.
Yeah, again, a couple of things. Again, want to thank Tony and FEMA, the FEMA administrator, Cresswell, and the White House for responding to Louisiana's needs and giving us that pre-landfall declaration. We look forward to working with them as we move into the post-storm recovery on tomorrow. Again, we're going to be putting out, also for the press, we're going to be putting out some information because I know that you have had some questions on shelters. I would remind y'all that initial sheltering is always a local responsibility, and that they put it out. If statewide shelters are going to be operational, we will get y'all that information as well. Again, I would urge residents to take the necessary steps of preparing for the storm to come. It is on our doorstep as we speak. Remember, after the storm is over, please remain in place. As you heard from all of these agencies, we are going to have a lot of people on the roadway that is necessary to put the vital infrastructure back in place so that you can go about your daily lives. We have checked with our utility partners. We feel like they pre-position the assets necessary to help them. Jay is going to give us some great information, hopefully tomorrow, that the winds will die down real fast so that the utility crews can get up and on those lines, because remember, they have a wind restriction as you know, if the wind exceeds 30 miles an hour, they can't repair the line. So we're hoping that this storm passes fast enough through the state, and we can get all those utility trucks and DOTD and our first responders on the roadway. But again, we urge our citizens to stay off the roadway if you are not inside of that critical needs, vital labor force. And with that, we'll take any questions that y'all may have.
This one is for DOTD. You guys mentioned 4 roadways that are closed. Are any of those in our direct area?
So if you're referring to the capital region, the answer is no. There's St. Mary Parish and more of the coastal parishes, Cameron and Vermilion. Yeah, thank you.
Could you be a little bit more specific about which road closures there are?
I certainly can. Let me bring my notes up here. So we've got, I know it's 317 in St. Mary Parish, which was requested by the locals. We also have LA 45, a portion of it in Jefferson Parish, LA 3147 in Vermilion, and then LA 27 in Cameron.
And I'd also remind you, I think on DOTD's app and website,
511, which was mentioned. That's correct.
These road closures are actually posted there as well. So I would encourage the press to monitor DOTD's app. They do a great job of updating those road closures and any issues that we have with the infrastructure in almost real time. Yes, Julie?
Are you all coordinating at all with the Cajun Navy? What role do you expect, if any, do you expect them to play? And I wonder, Governor, if you've talked to the president.
Oh, I have not spoken directly to the president, but I have spoken to the FEMA administrator. I've spoken to Major General Peoples with the Corps of Engineers. We have been working with our congressional delegation, the entire delegation. In fact, we actually invited the congressional delegation staff into the UCG meeting so that they could participate as well. And I am fully confident that our federal partners are working very well with the state agencies, and our local partners are doing a great job as well.
Okay, as far as the Cajun Navy, all of the volunteer organizations active during a disaster, it's called VOAD is the acronym for it, are all a major element of GOSEP. We meet with them quarterly to include the elements of the Cajun Navy as well as ground force, which is another element. So we do talk to them throughout the year, every quarter, and they're always involved and integral in our process. It's just one more tool in our toolbox that we always use in every disaster.
All right, any more questions?
Regarding sheltering, has the state mega shelter had any requests from the locals to take in any of that overflow yet?
We have not. We have not. Why, do you know of any?
I'm asking you, Governor.
Well, no, I know you asked me like you might have known. We don't. We have no information today that there's any requests.
No, Doc and I both have not received any requests from a parish.
Yep.
Yesterday you told us that there were just a handful of people relocated from nursing homes. Have there been any more evacuations from nursing homes?
Yesterday we mentioned Vermilion had moved 8. The only update, Luleen has moved 2 to Metairie. Other than that, everything's going well.
All right, any more questions? Yep.
I'd like to ask Jay, does it look like the storm of the eye is headed more toward the east now, jogging more toward New Orleans?
The shift that we saw in the storm track yesterday came to an end during the afternoon and evening, and since yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, there's been no appreciable shift to the east. So even if we see a minor jog between now and landfall, it's not likely to be sufficient enough to greatly endanger New Orleans beyond the state that they're currently in.
Okay, any last questions?
What role do we see the Red Cross playing? Have you guys been in contact with them?
Yeah, we had the Red Cross was in our UCG. I don't see any deviation from what we've done in the past. We certainly want to add our faith-based organizations that have been interwoven into GOSEP as well. And so lastly, look, I want to thank the citizens of the state. I think that all of y'all, everyone out there has been great as we prepare for this particular storm. Again, I would caution our citizens that just because it is a Category 1 or possibly a Category 2 doesn't mean it's just going to be a thunder bumper, right? I know that we have been through a lot here in Louisiana. Again, I urge everyone to take the necessary preparations. If you're in the storm's pathway, to understand that you may be without utilities for some time. And so to go ahead and make those necessary arrangements, we look forward to keeping information available through our getAGamePlan.org app and also through our different various agencies and through GOSEP. Jacques, anything?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So you just heard the GOSEP command group coming out of their UCG. You've heard that acronym that referred to by the governor. That means Unified Command Group, that all the state leaders there meeting to get regular updates about Francine here as we anticipate the landfall moving well into the evening hours here. Yeah. So that means state leaders have to come together to kind of regroup and figure out what is our plan. You heard Jacques Thibodeau, the GOSEP director, him talk about this. We are now past the prepare phase. Right. We are in the respond phase. So wherever you are watching us right now is where you should be riding out the rest of the storm here. And when we talk about storm, when you're still looking at these impacts and the timing, Jay Grimes reiterating what the First Alert Weather Team has been saying here. Look, after midnight, this is largely going to be out of our system, out of our area. We're not going to have to worry about that. It's between now and then that we really have to be concerned about. And it's making sure that you have that game plan in place, that everything is ready to go. But you can see from agency to agency to agency, everything is pre-positioned. Everything is ready and prepared to go. It's a matter of, okay, when Francine comes, what do we do next?
To your point, the preparations from department to department, it was a bunch of quick hits from leaders there. Louisiana National Guard perhaps spending the most time at the podium. And when you talk about pre-positioning resources, we're talking about human resources and then vehicles and boats and aircraft to get in. 2,300 on mission with up to 2,500 to come, 58 boats, 101 high water vehicles, 61 aircraft, and that's in the moment from Louisiana National Guard. And you heard him say as well, they shifted a little bit to the southeast, but then you also heard Jay Grimes say, we think the shifting is done for the point as far as anything appreciable from now until landfall. It looks like the path that's on now is the path.
So it seems that is the case. So we want to check back in now with our First Alert Weather Team here. And Jared, as we were listening to Jay and all the state leaders here, it's looking like we are continuing to monitor that southeast and south central Louisiana here. What are you seeing?
Yeah, and I completely agree with what Jay Grimes was just reiterating there, that it's not going to be a substantial change. And now that the models are starting to come together a little bit, they're not as far apart. What we call the envelope of solutions is now getting a little bit tighter. That gives us a little bit more confidence. Now, having said that, it seems like the National Hurricane Center is hedging their bets a little bit more closely to what the European model is saying. That's what you see here. So this is 4:30 in the afternoon, and you can see it is still not yet made landfall. So landfall has been bumped back just a little bit, and again, that's going to be the case. It should make landfall, according to the European, I would say around 6-7 p.m. You could see around the Morgan City area, so as Jay Grimes mentioned, not an appreciable shift back over to the east, and there you see 76 miles per hour. Now, by the time it makes it up to Baton Rouge, we could still see wind gusts getting up around 70 miles per hour, simply because the center of circulation is going to be passing in between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, much closer to the Baton Rouge side, though, and of course that becomes important. So this is what happens at midnight. It starts to fall apart a little bit. It encounters more dry, stable air, and it screams out to the north. Once we get to daybreak, not only is it completely out of our viewing area, it's completely out of the state. We want to stay away from the east side of the storm. That's the bad, the dirty side. That's where you start to get rotation. So you could see Baton Rouge right now, the city, we're in a level 1 risk as far as anything severe, as anything tornadic for later today and tonight. But the farther east you go, Livingston, Walker, Hammond, down to New Orleans, and going right out to Mississippi, that's where we expect that little bit of rotation to really get going. And we don't have any tornado watches or warnings out there now, but the thinking process is that will start to ramp up later on in the day. At the 11 a.m. update, because we did get one now that the updates are coming a little bit more frequency, 90 miles per hour, 976 millibars, so it's really not putting on any more strength and speed for the time being. That's the reason why the latest track from the NHC has actually taken away the Category 2. Now they believe that it stays a Category 1 all the way through. Even if it did ever so briefly become a 2, it would just cross over the threshold. Right now it should be somewhere in the 90 mile per hour range. That's still, by the way, at 90 miles per hour, a Category 1. And there you see the center of the track. It's just going to pass off to the east of Baton Rouge. But again, by the time it gets up here, by the time it gets to that point, it looks like it's no longer going to be at hurricane status, but rather at a tropical storm. This is how the shift has really migrated over the east over the past couple of days, track by track, slowly but surely. So we have shifted all of our winds here. It really looks like Morgan City down to places like Cocodrie, Houma, over to New Orleans, places like Galliano and Dulac. You folks are the ones that have a better chance of seeing hurricane force winds at landfall and just slightly after that. Of course, we still have the potential for storm surge at about 5 to 10 feet. We're going to keep a watchful eye on that. Now, as we've been telling you, we do have team coverage here. We've got our 5-person weather team. We've got Jeff Morrow, and we've got the newest member of our team, Henry Blake. So I'm going to send it over to Henry.
Hey, thank you so much, Jared. Yes, we are in gear. We're in hurricane mode. Thankfully, things aren't terrible at the moment, but that's going to be changing as the hours progress, especially by mid to late afternoon for our coastal parishes and then into the Baton Rouge area this evening and overnight. But here are a few key points or messages that I'd like to point out to you. Heavy rain and a flood threat, that is going to be a thing for today as well as tonight. As the weather continues to go downhill, we'll start gradually feeling that stronger wind. Tropical storm force wind, even the potential for some hurricane force wind in some locations. Not everywhere, but the chance is still there. But the good news, as Jared and everyone else has been mentioning, it looks like we should have improving conditions for your Thursday, even as early as Thursday morning. So that is good news. Let's take a look at the current advisories. Anyone shaded in red, that's EBR Parish, Baton Rouge, down through Morgan City. You are under a hurricane warning. That means that you do have that potential for wind gusts possibly over 74 miles per hour due to the hurricane force winds. Everyone else, you are under tropical storm warnings. So still a bit gusty, a bit on the wet side as well due to all of that rain. Here is the look at the current status or the latest status on Francine. Still a Category 1 storm, max wind at the center 90 miles per hour, moving northeast at 13 miles per hour. And you'll notice more of those outer bands starting to impact southern parts of Louisiana. Pressure still at 976. We'll wait for the updates, but you'll notice starting to see a few more lightning strikes detected on radar as we get closer to the coastal parishes. That's those thunderstorms starting to push in, and with the shear, that's where we are going to have that potential for that tornadic activity, as Jared had mentioned, especially east of the Baton Rouge area. So there will be the chance for those spotty tornadoes, but the big story is going to be the rain and the wind. You'll notice there's the center, here's the ice, still well off at sea. but eventually it is going to make its way inland, and that will give the rest of us the potential for not just the rain, a couple of thunderstorms, but also some strong gusty winds. Zooming in a little bit tighter, you'll notice more of that moderate rain, Morgan City, Houma, into Golden Meadow, all the way south to the coast and out to sea. So all of this gradually going to push north. We're still getting more of a steady rain along Interstate 10 in from Baton Rouge, and then extending from Hammond into Slidell, Lafayette, and Jennings, also getting in on some steady rain as well. Notice for now, not very much wind. These are the current wind gusts. At best, many of us 20, maybe 25 mile per hour gusts, but along the coast, you'll notice a darker shade of blue. And also, if you look at way at the bottom of your screen, we're getting more darker blues and purples. That's where those stronger gusts are, and those are closer to the center of circulation. Flooding potential still going to be a thing anywhere in southern Louisiana, so we remain under that flood watch at least through Thursday morning. The rain could be heavy at times, and as that system pushes to the north, that is going to bring the rain chances not just to southern Louisiana, but you'll notice some of these reds, purples extending all the way up into Mississippi. They're going to be fortunate in the fact that they're not going to have the hurricane force winds, let alone tropical storm force winds, but notice much of southeast and south central Louisiana. Unfortunately, not just the wind, but the rain is the potential anywhere from 3, maybe some places 7 inches of rain. But just keep in mind, not everyone is going to get an excessive amount of rain. Not everyone is going to get those hurricane force wind gusts. But nonetheless, this is still a hurricane, and we still need to be prepared and take it seriously. Here's the Euro model. We've got the rain right now. It is picking up on that. But as far as that landfall, as Jared and Jay mentioned, slowing down just a little bit, most likely going to make landfall by the late afternoon, if not early evening hours. But the impacts are still going to be felt region-wide as this storm pushes inland. Baton Rouge, it looks like you're still going to have your strongest wind, at least this evening, into the overnight hours, with that potential for those 50-plus mile per hour wind gusts in parts of the area. Look at that. After midnight Thursday morning, the system pushing out of here, racing to the north. So residents, we are going to be looking at calmer conditions for many of us from south. Remember, starting from the south and then gradually increasing north for tonight into your Thursday morning. So depending on the wind, depending on how much damage you may or may not get, some of you may be fortunate enough to go ahead with those travel plans. An uncle of mine wanted to go down to New Orleans for tomorrow. That may be the case, especially if things start to settle down. But remember, depending on where the damage is, that too will impact your travel plans. But nonetheless, looking at much better weather for the moment when we go into your Thursday. Here's the graph model. It's still, as mentioned, hinting at pushing a little farther to the east, but Baton Rouge, I'm still thinking anywhere between Baton Rouge and New Orleans is likely where that center is going to be. But still, as Jay Grimes mentioned, not really making much of a difference as far as an impact, especially for the fact that many of us are going to be closer to that center of circulation. Doesn't matter if you get that 50 mile per hour gust, 70 or plus mile per hour gust, it is still going to have an impact on your weather. So a little bit of good news. Let's talk a little bit of positive news for the moment. At the time, rain chances still 100% for the rest of the day. That 50% chance for tomorrow, mostly late tonight into the wee early morning hours. And after that, pretty much no rain chances. Look at that. For Friday, well, Friday and Saturday, no rain. So we're getting some relief. We get to dry off and get those cleanup efforts underway. Slight chance of a shower or two as we go into, let's say, your weekend, the second half of your weekend for your Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday could be looking at a little bit of wet weather. But as we mentioned, the positive news, things are going to be settling down in time for your Thursday with minimal rain chances, especially during the afternoon as well as the evening hours. And for the moment, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to meteorologist Jeff Morrow with more on the river stages.
Yeah, Henry, we've been asked a lot in our newsroom about river stages, so we do want to talk about that. First, we have to talk about the storm structure. That is going to be a big factor as to the rain amounts that we're going to be dealing with. As you note right now, vast majority of the rain is along the northern fringe of the system. It's a top-heavy hurricane, as we sometimes refer to it. Big reason why we are dealing with that is because we've got an influx of dry air. The dry air being entrained into the center of the circulation like this, and you can see how we have a lack of rainfall, a lack of precipitation here on sort of the eastern edge and the southern half of the circulation of Francine. So that is good news actually for us in terms of we won't be having a long duration event as it pertains to rainfall. So in terms of the amount of rain, that may help limit the amount that Francine drops. The other good news is Francine not going to be a very slow moving hurricane. Right now, forward speed is about 13 miles per hour, may pick up a couple of miles per hour just prior to landfall. And so that would actually put it through our state majoritively through the rest of today. So by the time we get towards Tuesday morning, in particular sunrise, probably going to be well out of here, and that's going to allow us to start that drying trend as Henry mentioned. So because of that, limiting hopefully the amount of rainfall. But you'll notice we still got these pockets of heavier rainfall now starting to impact areas along the coast. Another thing that's impacting the system is wind shear. The wind shear is blowing from west to east. So you'll notice here more with the satellite image how the clouds are starting to spread farther out into the panhandle of Florida and into southern Alabama. So we've got this strong wind shear, that too causing the lopsidedness of this storm. So majority of the rain is going to be on the northeastern quadrant of Hurricane Francine as it makes its way inland. Not a lot of rain or thunderstorms on the eastern eye wall of this system. It's more on the northern and western. We'll see if we can continue that trend. That would actually put Baton Rouge maybe onto the heavier rain side of the eye as we expect that center core to kind of pass in between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. So a look at our First Alert radar network on this First Alert weather day. You can see down towards the coast maybe one of these heavier rain bands starting to move in to populated areas. So areas like Morgan City, Houma, and Lafitte, they're dealing with some heavier rainfall. As these rain bands move inland, they are weakening a little bit. That trend is expected to change once we get towards the afternoon and evening hours. They will continue to hold together in terms of their intensity as the core of the system begins to approach. Flood watch is in place through the rest of today into early tomorrow morning for all of our viewing area. That includes our counties in southwestern Mississippi, includes Metro Baton Rouge, and includes down towards our coastal parishes. So how does this relate in terms of flood concerns for our area rivers? Well, it's all dependent on where the rain falls. Will it fall in the catch basins for some of our rivers? And the rivers that we monitor include the Comeet, the Amite, the Tickfaw, and the Tangipahoa River. Those catch basins start all the way into our counties in southwestern Mississippi, extend through the Feliciana, St. Helena Parish, Tangipahoa Parish, and then into EBR and Livingston Parish east of the Mississippi River. So we're watching for the rainfall totals in particular here, kind of just north of Baton Rouge as the water continues to push towards the south. So the latest outlook from the Weather Prediction Center highlighting this tongue, so to speak, of heavier rainfall totals in between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, kind of where that center of circulation is expected to take place. And again, we think the center is going to move kind of like this. And as I showed you with the lopsided effect of the storm system, I think the Weather Prediction Center estimating that the western edge of the circulation may have more of that heavier rainfall than the eastern side of the storm this time around. But it, again, going to be more of the top heavy aspect. So we're looking at a 5 to 7 inch rainfall total, kind of in this yellowy orange shade of color. And then outside of that, anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of rainfall. So how does that impact our area rivers? Well, right now, our area rivers are at what we call base flow. It means that they have stayed steady for the last couple of days where we haven't seen much in the way of rainfall. So that's good news number one. You see we've selected a couple of sites here. You can see the Comeet at Jor, less than a foot right now at the current level, but you see the forecasts. They're all expected to pretty much stay just below minor flood stage. So based off of the current forecast from the National Weather Service that came out this morning, it's positive news. It's going to look like we're going to be dealing with some elevated rivers, but it's positive news for the meantime right now, as you can see that most of our river sites expected to stay just below flood stage. We should get an update on this forecast later this afternoon, and we may get a better adjustment in terms of how much rain we are seeing to that point. But right now, it looks like the Tickfall River at Liverpool, the only spot that is dealing with a flood stage projection at 9.5 feet. But again, some of them within a half of a foot of that potential flood stage. Also lower reaches. So along the coastal, the tidal lakes of the coast, you're talking about areas around Killian, areas around Maurepas, areas around the lower reaches of the Tangipahoa River near Robert. We're seeing inundation with the storm surge combined with the rain that can cause higher levels there. They're already starting to see the rivers rising there because the water can't escape into the tidal lakes because of the storm surge, because of the persistent wind backing it up. So the lower reaches are going to see the higher river levels than, say, some of the upper reaches of these rivers, including the Comite at Jor, Amite River at Denham Springs, and vice versa.
Jeff, thanks for answering that question. I know we had gotten that email from quite a few of our viewers, so it's good to kind of get a gauge on that and an update on what we're seeing numbers-wise. We'll continue to check in with our weather team to let you know.
Because look, to Jeff's point, getting a lot of questions, I have questions. It's the first thing that I think about now when I get a drop of rain on the windshield. What's that going to do to my major creek that I got just a few doors down with Jones Creek? Obviously, Jones Creek eventually dumps into like the Amite. You've got the Comite dumping into the Amite. All these different things play a role. And depend, like to Jeff's point, where you are in that basin, well, that goes a long way into if you catch some of that backwater flooding, if you've got some of that, if it's already the water levels that kind of high. But to Jeff's point, it looks like while the water is going to be high at some of these spots, manageable in most.
Well, while we are tracking Hurricane Francine here, a couple of hours ago, we checked in and got a live look out of Cocodrie in Terrebonne Parish here. Sure. We want to check back in with Rob Creeker. We believe you made your way, what, a couple miles up north? Rob, where exactly are you now?
Yeah, actually, so we traveled west here. We're in Dularge right now, where we run into a bunch of folks who are hanging out right now, having a good time, at least until Francine gets here, though. They are battening down the hatches, if you will. I got Jeremy Ball here with me, the owner of the marina here. Tell us a little bit about what we are seeing. I mean, right now, the conditions, it doesn't really seem like if you were living under a rock, you wouldn't know a tropical storm was coming.
Yeah, but it's definitely deteriorating as the afternoon goes on. I mean, as you saw about 30 minutes ago, it wasn't very good, but I mean, as the afternoon goes on, it's just going to continue to deteriorate, which that's nice to see. There's a big pile of ducks right there flying over us.
Is that right? So when you look out here in this area, as we look past there, and Steve, my photographer, is showing that gate beyond the water there, that's part of that levee protection system here in Terrebonne Parish that keeps everyone safe here, keeps the water out. But we're kind of experiencing something right now where, I mean, we are saturated from last week's rain, and we're seeing it kind of pile up here.
We are saturated from last week's rain. We had 21 inches of rain last week, and this is going to be the first storm that has taken the western side of the parish since the levee system's been up. The levee system's been up for quite a few years now, but it's definitely served its purpose, and we hope it's going to serve its purpose again.
So, you were here through, Barry, through Ida. Obviously, Barry, we saw a lot more flooding. Ida, obviously, that wind damage was tremendous through here. What is your thoughts about this?
I think this is a minimum hurricane. I think we were very safe. The levees are going to should hold, I would hope. We'll ask me that this afternoon. But I think we're safe. I think we're very safe.
In the meantime, I know you got some folks here kind of enjoying everything, about to head home and, start battening everything down. You're closing everything here?
The shop is closed for business, and we're going to go hunker down the hatch and hopefully open tomorrow as normal business tomorrow morning at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing here in Terrebonne Parish. I mean, life has to go on, right? I mean, you folks rely a lot of times on the fishing industry, on getting out on the water. So you expect, if things remain okay, these gates to begin opening tomorrow?
I would think so. I would think so. As long as those gates are closed, the money valve's closed too.
That's right. That is right. All right, Jeremy, we appreciate it here. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Be safe out there. Look, these are the conditions here in Terrebonne Parish. One of those things we've been following throughout the morning. You've seen just kind of this sort of dreary conditions where the rain's been coming down. It's come down hard. It's come down soft. It's kind of has a little bit of a light break here, but you're seeing some of those gulls start to fly up from the coast here. We're still about a couple miles from the, if you will, the fingertip of this finger of Terrebonne. So we're going to keep waiting. We expect these conditions to rapidly deteriorate, and I feel like there's now here in Terrebonne Parish. So we'll keep following everything. Clearly, this is a situation that even though we expect it to be a Category 1, folks seem to be taking this in stride. It is something that you should take seriously. It can be dangerous. Those 74-mile-an-hour plus winds can be incredibly dangerous. So make sure that you're in the right location, and we'll keep following it for you out here. That's going to do it for us. Reporting in Terrebonne Parish, I'm Rob Krieger.
Rob, thank you. So I think what he described there, the tone of that group, they understand the reality here. They've done this before. They said, look, we've been drinking. It's a South Louisiana hurricane party at that. But you even heard him say they're getting ready to close things down there, close the shop down, go home, make sure everyone is ready to go, because they know when it comes, and you want to be prepared. You want to make sure that the homestead is safe and ready to go, and that's what they're about ready to do. It's good to check in, though, and get kind of the spirit check of folks there.
That's exactly right. Spirit, like spirit.
In multiple senses.
I figured you were going there.
Yeah.
So yeah, South Louisiana getting ready for whatever Hurricane Francine decides to throw our way. We kind of got an idea of the track. We kind of got an idea of the timing. Even better news is we got a whole crew waiting to give you the very latest as Francine does make that approach towards Louisiana.
Let's get through it together. Stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.